What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. Got my boy Steven here today, waiting on Jay, waiting on Chris, and Ty is getting some wedding stuff done. So we gotta hold it down for Ty today, man. He had an interesting group chat on that today. But Steven, what's going on, man?
Doing well, Nino. I'm glad to be on with you. Shout out to our SEC Connect family, guys. We're growing this platform, so make sure you hit that like button, share with a friend.
Yeah.
I know we're all familiar faces in the Texas community and OU community and Bama community with all of our fellow friends here that are on this channel and platform. But as we're growing this platform, make sure you hit that like button and show us some love.
Most definitely. Like, comment, subscribe. And like Steven always says on his channel, man, like shows support, man. So like this thing. Hey, man, today we're going to talk about the 2024 SEC schedules were released. And since the two Texas guys are on today, I think, Steven, we should start off with the Texas Longhorns. What you think about that, buddy?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's
Let's
do
jump
it.
right in. I can't get enough of the 2024 schedule talk, Nino.
Yeah, man, exactly. It's gonna be really good, man. But just going and honestly, I was looking at what was it CBS. And so CBS Sports said that Texas had the second easiest SEC schedule for 2024. The hardest schedule this year was going to be Oklahoma for 2024. So we'll tag in and we'll take a look at the Texas schedule. The home games, folks, if you can see the screen here: Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. Um, Games that are away. We're getting Arkansas back in the schedule from the old Southwestern Conference days. Oklahoma stays in the schedule. Neutral site, down in Dallas. Texas A&M finally back on the schedule since Texas A&M left to go to the SEC, and now we all meet back with each other. And then Vanderbilt away. I think I'm going to actually drive that Nashville game. But Steven, which one really intrigues you the most on this the schedule for Texas?
Just having A&M finally done and back in the fold, right? In all seriousness, that's a game for those of us who can remember because it's been so long now. It's been what over 12 years
Yeah, 12, 13
since
years. Yeah.
since we last played. So a lot of folks, that are early teens or mid teens or even coming up through college now may not really even remember those games every around Thanksgiving where we got together. So hopefully that's a game where we can have them. We're able to go to Kyle Field during rivalry week, that Black Friday or what have you, and have that game and restore the tradition. It means a lot to me, man, personally. I mean, where I fell in love with Ricky Williams, my genesis as a Texas fan is that historic run, that 66-yard touchdown run to seal his Heisman against Texas A&M. And some of some of these amazing games we've had, the memories, the trash talk we've had on social media. Social media has developed since we last played. I mean, I wasn't on Twitter the last time Texas and Texas A&M played. Think about that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the think about the engagement we have on an annual basis with OU for those who are listening. And OU fans can agree the engagement we have with Texas fans, all the podcasts, all the social media, all the things we do. We're actually going to be able to have that and have a game behind it with A&M now. So personally, it means a ton. But there's so much meat on the bone here with the schedule,
Yeah, man. Hey, I love the A&M game back in the schedule. Like you said, it's been a lot of trash talk, man, over the last 12, 13 years. Each school has been blaming the other school for being scared to play each other. Um, A&M dips to the SEC because they wanted to get out of our shadow and kind of do their own thing. And now we are back, in their playground now. So honestly, we're back in the SEC, and it's going to be our playground, and they're gonna still be like our little brother again. And I think that's what they were trying to get away from. Um, I'm really looking forward to the A&M game. I remember going down to A&M, for a bunch of stuff when I was in college, man. So I was in Texas, from '01 to '05, and going down there for like the Greek Olympiad and stepping in the step shows down there. Going to the football games down there as well, to the home games here in Austin. So I mean, it just brings back a bunch of memories, man. So I can't wait for the A&M game. I think the other game, man, that really intrigues me, and I'm really looking for, like honestly, people will say maybe the Georgia game, and yes, Georgia's going to be a big game at home. And I got friends that went to Georgia. My homeboy Ant. So yeah, he just texted me today and said that he is actually going to the Georgia Texas game at Austin, so he's going to be there for that. But man, I'm telling you, I think the Florida game, and I say the
Yep.
Florida game because I've seen us play Georgia recently. I've seen us play, Arkansas recently. I've seen us play, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. But the Florida game really intrigues me, man, because I think Billy Napier is going to be on a hot seat if he doesn't get things right this year. But if he gets things cooking this year and he gets that extra year, that team is going to be playing with some fire, right? And so in 2024, this great class that he has coming in so far, these 5 stars he has coming in, those guys will be a year into the program, or no, yeah, they'll be
Yeah.
no. Yeah, definitely.
But
1 year
some
into
of
the
them will be
program, right?
coming in. Yeah, some of them will be. A lot of them will be freshmen, just
Yeah,
like our
yeah.
class now. But that's depth on top of
On top of talent
what
that's
is
already there.
still correct. Correct.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking into that too, man. I think the Florida game is gonna be a very interesting game. Two big brands, two big names. If Sark doesn't do what he's supposed to do this year, he could be in the same position as Billy Napier. All right. So this could be two coaches fighting for the jobs, but I don't think that's the case. I think Sark's gonna have a hell of a season this year. But 2024 is gonna be great. I think one thing too, Stephen, that I want to talk about for 2024 is when it comes to Texas, who's the starting quarterback in 2024?
Right. I mean, if it, assuming this is assuming Quinn Ewers has ascended to become the NFL prospect we know and believe he can become. We're obviously looking at a battle between Malik Murphy and Arch Manning, right? And
Yep.
so, is this a year where Malik Murphy is able to hold on and leverage that experience as well as his natural size and ability and lead Texas, and Arch has another year to develop, or is that a year where Arch Manning takes over as our starting quarterback our first year in the SEC? I think it's going to be really, really interesting how it plays out. And it's TBD because everything kind of starts with Quinn, honestly. Um, and
Yeah.
we're under the assumption that Quinn balls out in 2023.
And if
If
Quinn
Quinn
doesn't
is,
ball out, ugh,
yeah, I mean, let's say, like, what if he's just good, right? Like, what if he's good, like good enough to where there's no question who the starter is, but it's kind of like Sam Ellinger junior year type production where he throws a lot of touchdowns, is pretty good, but he might have to come back another year to improve his stock. Like, there's a lot of unknown there, but I think with him having another year in Sark's system, 2023, things he's done with his body, the way the
yeah,
NFL regards Quinn Ewers, it seems as though he's on pace, on track, and it's weird as it sounds with the lack of tape, that that he's on that NFL trajectory right now. So I think that does come down to a Malik Murphy versus Arch Manning conversation in 2024 if we're looking at who's leading Texas in their inaugural season in the SEC.
yeah, man. So I've talked about this a lot. In our other group chat, I've made the comment that I think Malik Murphy is probably the most important player on this team. And people gave me a lot of hell for that, but I say that because look, there's an opportunity that we might need two quarterbacks this year. Pray that Quinn stays healthy. Pray that we don't have a fluke hit that happens and his shoulder gets missed. I mean, just pray that he stays healthy the whole season and we got continuity at the quarterback position, and he balls out and he goes to the league. But if he doesn't, stay healthy, and we had to have Murphy come in and play some games, I think he could potentially be the most important player here in this team because he has to be the guy that's going to be the conduit between Quinn and the next era, right? And I think people are overlooking Malik and are not going to give him his era if it is presented to him. And let me tell you something, man. If you guys have ever been to a game, and seen him in person, at the Red River Shootout last year, me and Steven and Homer, and Lando, we're sitting there and like, look how big Malik is. I mean, he was bigger than anybody on the team. I mean, he was 6'6", towering with the locks. I mean, the dude looked like, a stud. Chris, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
Good, man. Hey, man, everybody give Chris a hand and some congrats. He just had his baby, like 2 weeks ago, Chris?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, coming up this Sunday, be 2 weeks ago.
Man, congrats,
Happy
man.
Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day, Chris. And to you as well, Nino. But
man,
Chris
being
man.
But Chris is
the
brand new, man.
Pops, I'm really happy
Hey,
for
man,
you, brother.
That first one hit different, bro. That first Father's Day hits different, man.
It's real.
Yeah, man. But look, since you showed up late, we're not talking about OU schedule. We're talking about the best team in the conference, Texas.
Look, I already know. I'm not surprised in the least bit. Hey, if I can, let me go ahead and jump into this real quick. So, Nick, you were wrong. Okay, you were wrong.
What?
OU definitely has the hardest schedule.
They do.
In 2024. So
they do. I just said that. That's the first thing I said in the show. I said OU per CBS Sports has the toughest schedule in 2024 for the SEC conference, in Texas has the second to last hardest schedule.
Now, let me say this though. I will say this though. Kentucky, Georgia, Florida, but Kentucky and even Vandy to an extent. Those are the Texas Techs, the Iowa States, the K-States of the world. Okay, what I mean by that is Kentucky and Vandy. Y'all got a pretty damn good schedule too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be nut up every week, and plus I think y'all got Michigan, right? I think Steve.
Yeah, we got Michigan second game of the season.
Are y'all going to Ann Arbor too, right?
Yep. Two Michigan.
I mean, y'all actually overall maybe not as SEC per se, because we still got to see
overall. That's a tough schedule, Chris. No, you're right.
Overall, y'all have a tough schedule as well overall. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting for both teams to see how they fare that first year. I mean, we got a gauntlet. I would say you guys got a mini gauntlet. That's not even a slight. That's just being real. But still, when you look at that non-con going to Michigan with JJ McCarthy possibly being back again, which he should be back. I think he'll be a junior this year or a sophomore this year.
Sophomore, I think.
I think he should be a junior, right? Or a redshirt sophomore.
Yeah, McCarthy's going his junior year this year.
Okay.
Because he played, he split with McNamara the year before.
Yeah, that's true.
And then last year he was the starter.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, going into that game, if Jaden Davis is the one, I think that's his name, the 24.
I think McCarthy's playing for the league this year. This
I do too.
Year, though.
I do too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But so just talking about the whole, Texas QB situation in 2024, who do we expect to start? It's everything hinges on Quinn. Quinn has to do what he has to do so that he can get up out of here, and then we can have a true, competition here for 2024. My pick is I would love to see a guy like, Murphy shine, man. I want to see him get his just due. He's waited his time. He has great arm talent as well, man. I want to see him get his just due. But, hey, it's going to be an open battle, and we'll see who wins it, and I hope Malik gets a fair shot at that, which I think he'll get a fair shot. It's just a matter of if he can pull it out or not. Yeah, Chris, but tell me this, man. What game for the Texas schedule do you think is the most intriguing for you?
I'm gonna go out on a limb. Excuse me. I'm looking for the Texas schedule. I know what in my heart of hearts which game is for me.
Yeah.
I would say Florida, to be honest with you.
That's the same thing I said, man.
I think that's a damn good matchup.
That's the same thing I said.
Georgia is Georgia. If Beck is that guy this year, then I see him coming back, obviously, and starting in 2024. And then obviously they got that number one QB, but they got some other talent on the roster as well. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I would say probably, Florida and Arkansas for me personally, simply because I want to see y'all get y'all lick back. It's crazy that they're making you go there again to Fayetteville, but Arkansas and Florida, just because of the matchup, because it's talent on talent. Look, at the end of the day, I could take jabs. I could make jokes. I could do it for days about Texas, but I can't argue that y'all are a talented team. Y'all have talent on your roster. I'd be stupid if I said that. But if I didn't say that, but at the end of the day, I think those are really intriguing matchups because it's just something new. And you're revisiting kind of an older rivalry, I guess, with Arkansas. Texas A&M obviously jumps out simply because, for whatever reason, you guys hate each other. I get the rivalry, but I didn't know it was that big of a deal simply because A&M doesn't. Now, I may take a jab and say Texas doesn't have the history OU has as far as championships, but Texas A&M doesn't even compare to y'all as a program in the last decade, the last 20 years, the last umpteen years, to be honest with you. I can't remember when I could literally say Texas A&M was a better team. They may have had better coaching at some points in time, but I can't really remember whenever that was actually just something that I was like, oh my God, this is competitive. But again, for me, and I'll shut up and pass the mic, but I would say it's Florida and Arkansas for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. So, when it comes to Texas and Texas A&M, it's honestly all about, who's going to run the state, right? And it's about, who's going to get the recruits. So, so that's what the big thing for us is. And it's also a built-in history too, man. I mean, it's Texas versus Texas A&M. It's almost like, Michigan State, OU, Oklahoma State, Auburn, Alabama. It's just those two in-state rivalries that are going to decide a lot when it comes to just the landscape of college football for that state. But yeah, man, but look, we've been talking about Texas for like 15 minutes. So, Chris, I'm going to hop on over to the Oklahoma side, and I'm going to let you start this off, and I want you to tell me what's the most intriguing game to you when it comes to Oklahoma this year.
1 second. Is everybody's audio okay?
Yeah, I can hear.
Some of them are saying that it's a little bit poppy in there, so I want to.
Audio on all ends is super poppy and a lot of static.
I've had my mic on mute when I'm not talking, so I think it's. And I thought we sounded. I mean,
yeah, it sounds good to me. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just making sure. But hey, no. Back to the point though. For Oklahoma, one of the more intriguing games. The storylines will say, okay, you got Beamer coming back to Oklahoma. You got Heupel coming back to Oklahoma. We played Tennessee in the past. We've been successful against them. I don't see why that should change. They've had some talent and different things like that on their team, but they've had some talented teams. I mean, going back to the year that Baker worked at Magic in that fourth quarter to bring us back. I mean, that's a storyline. But for me, it's possibly having to play in Death Valley at night on the road. That's going to be, that's the game that really stands out to me. I think Bama coming to Oklahoma has always been a dream of mine. I always thought about, back a few years ago when you heard rumblings about, well, if OU leaves, is OSU going to leave? I would always tell people it would be a great day for the state. If you think about it, you have Auburn or like LSU or somebody, they go to Stillwater for the for like a 2:30 kickoff. And then at 6 o'clock, you got Bama or LSU or somebody like that, whoever's the top team in the SEC coming to OU, coming to Norman at night. Those would be just fantastic games. But at the same time, now it's real, and you're looking at the fact that you're going to have to go to Death Valley probably at night. That's a damn good matchup, man. That's gonna be a really interesting game, and that's the game that I think Teddy said it best on their pod. This is going to be one of the first years, and it may even be the same for Texas. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's going to be one of those years where we're still building for the SEC, and we're going to be building for quite a while. And this may be the first time we can honestly say in the conference we're not the most talented. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
Because a lot of these other teams, they've been recruiting the SEC. They have this SEC talent, and the coaching staffs that we have now, Venables and Sark, you see what they're doing. Nick, you've made plenty of videos about it. They're trying to build these trenches up to the point where it can withstand those SEC defenses, those SEC offensive attacks or so. So for me, I'll say LSU for sure.
Steven, how about you, man?
I want to make a broad comment real quick and just say that I know while I agree about the difficulty of Oklahoma's schedule and Texas obviously really only having to play 3 true road games and 1 neutral site game is an advantage that we'll take. But if you look at every team in the SEC that has to all 8 opponents, I don't think there's any team that's like, oh, we got an easy slate. Like there's no. I mean, come on. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's
not
tough.
one schedule I'm looking at on here, especially with not knowing with recruiting, transfer portal, and just complete unknown breakout players for 2023, what these teams are going to look like in 2024, right?
Mhm.
But assuming that brands are the brands and the haves, remain the haves and whatnot, these are loaded. This is a gauntlet for everybody, literally everybody involved. There's no more like when you look at Georgia's schedule for 2023, right? And what they have juxtaposed to 2024, it's a completely different slate what they're up against. Quite frankly, I mean, having to go on the road to Alabama, um, as you said before, as Chris said before with Oklahoma, right? And they're going to have to play Alabama and LSU and Tennessee. So all these teams, I mean, I don't see any. I mean, there may be one little slight thing like Texas has with the neutral site, but overall, this is a gauntlet across the board, fellas. I mean, let's not get it twisted. To quote the great Rodney Terry.
Yeah, yeah, man, I agree. I agree. There's Chris. Hey guys, how's the sound now? Is it fine? Just type something in the chat. Audio's better. It was Chris. When you came on, it got poppy. He had to get off. There you go. It was Chris. You stopped
I
the
was
popping.
I was just making sure. Maybe that's me.
Man, what kind of Wi-Fi y'all got in Oklahoma, man?
Got that good Wi-Fi, boy. You know what I'm saying? But no, I agree. I agree with Steven. I did a pod with Jay on Jay's show. Shout out to Jay. We were talked about it. And he asked me, "Hey, how do you feel about the SEC schedule for OU?" And I said, "Hey, I actually feel pretty damn good about it because there's a lot of question marks going in simply because Kentucky's not going to have a quarterback. Arkansas is probably going to be ushering a new era. You have a bunch of teams that are going to have question marks on their roster. Auburn's probably going to be ushering in a new quarterback, probably a 5-star freshman. There's just a lot of variables, and you really don't know. You do know the constants that Alabama, Georgia, those teams are going to be really good. Tennessee should be pretty damn good. But with South Carolina, is Spencer Rattler going to be back, or are they going to kind of go back to the South Carolina of just a real gritty team trying to, basically get to the fourth quarter and keep it close until they can try to capitalize? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Missouri's probably not going to have those dudes. I think Luther Burden will probably be back, but you're losing. You're going to lose Theo Weiss, possibly lose some other guys. I'm not really sure, but I mean, you just got to ask how complete are these rosters going to be, because 2023 is a 2023 is a kind of a do or die year for some of these teams, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Chris. Hey, man, I'm looking forward when it comes to you guys, Tennessee. I want to see you guys in Tennessee play. I think that's going to be a hell of a game.
Mhm.
Is Milton that guy? I'm not sold on him yet. I know that you're not sold on him either. Jay's really sold on him. Jay loves him to death. But I want to see how he plays this year. And that's going to decide a lot on what I think about what Tennessee is going to do the next year. Because if he's outstanding, and in this year, and he goes into 2024 as a starter with Nico pushing him as well, I mean, you're talking about a QB room that could be outstanding going into that next year.
Mhm.
Nico being a true sophomore next year, could he step in and do great things? Yes, he could, but you would kind of want to see a more seasoned guy kind of just come in there and just do his thing. If Milton can like step up and do his thing, I think that'd be awesome. But yeah, I want to see that Tennessee and OU game. I think that's going to be electric. Electric.
I think right now, a lot of the guys that we're looking at, I mean, if we start with the quarterbacks, you guys already mentioned Nico, but a lot of the guys that you mentioned as prospects right now are some of these guys that were ballyhooed recruits, or we haven't really seen a full deck of cards yet,
Yeah.
some of them will know by then, right? And
Yeah.
or they'll be stepping into their job. For example, South Carolina, I actually think Rattler's probably going to be out of eligibility.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have to assume.
Yeah, he's done for sure.
But they really like what they have in Lenora Sellers, who's a freshman and tore it up in the spring game, and that guy's a true freshman. So like guys like that who may get to play a little bit here and there throughout the season, who knows? Those are people that may become household names by 2024. Is my opinion.
I expect Nico to be, obviously a lot of people, if you know, I expect him to be a name this year. I expect him to pretty much take over the starting position somewhere around the 5th or 6th game of the season.
That's a hot take. So Joe Milton's not going to hold his job the whole season? That's a hot take, Chris.
I don't see it, man. Like I told you guys, man. Look, some of these teams, it's kind of a do or die year for them. I know some people may say Tennessee is still in that building mode, but you have to capitalize off of what you did last year, getting a big bowl win against Clemson, all the rest of that. You can't afford to go out there and play around and go 8-4, stuff like that, and kind of just show the way of the old. You get what I'm saying?
Chris,
go ahead.
Milton's getting Anthony Richardson hype.
I already know. The kid's arm is talented.
Chris, there's some people in the league that are like, yo, Joe Milton has some NFL
looking
stuff.
Kind of nice, yeah.
Joe,
I got to see it too.
You said he's not even going to hold down the job.
That's great. He can have the Anthony Richardson comp right now, but everything. Look, he couldn't get it done at Michigan. He had one good game. I hit Ty up about it the other day. Ty and Jay. We saw it.
He tore up Clemson, though, bruh.
I know he tore up.
But he tore up. Yeah, he did. But
here is one game, though, and that's what I'm saying. Well, now that they have film on you, now that people are going to be looking for you, what are you going to do in the SEC? It's not going to be cupcake, and it's not going to be as easy as he would like. And I think that now with teams like Alabama making the transition to a guy like Kevin Steele or whatnot. I mean, am I saying his name right?
Yeah, Steele, the DC.
Yeah, making a transition to him getting back to kind of the bread and butter, some of the old school tactics of Nick Saban. I don't think that you're going to see those exotic defenses out there where they're letting guys basically run the same formation on each side of the ball and just running the same play down your throat and having a guy have six catches over 200 yards. I don't think that stuff is going to happen. I think this year people are going to be looking for that offense early and often. And I don't know, man. He's always had that arm talent, and you thought that he was going to be the guy at Michigan, and it just never panned out. And I just don't see it panning out at Tennessee as well.
The only reason why I push back against that. The only reason why I push back against that is, I mean, I haven't seen Josh Heupel like struggle yet, honestly. And that he's running they're running a very similar offense to what you guys run at OU. Yeah, quite frankly, with that bear and shoot, and they've been humming, dude. Hooker did the damn thing when he came over from Virginia Tech, and that was a perfect marriage. But Hooker was also an excellent decision maker and took, just immaculate care of the football.
Yeah.
Joe Milton's deep ball ability, though, like, it's intoxicating.
It is. Sick.
I mean, it is intoxicating, but at the same time, everybody may say, compare him to Anthony Richardson. I say Jamarcus Russell. I'm not really big on the kid. I don't think that.
What Jamarcus Russell are we talking about? Because the Jamarcus Russell at LSU was a dog.
It's a dog. Yeah.
I'm talking about the one that they handed that blank DVD to. That's the one I'm talking about. Okay. So you could flip it, short it, do whatever you want to do, put it on a reel, put it on a TikTok. I said it. I think that Joe Milton will get his spot taken by Nico this year, 5th or 6th game. Mark my words. When I'm sitting here and I'm right, I want you guys to throw a parade in my city and tell me that I'm right. Okay.
Hey, you know what? We'll bookmark this, Nino.
Hey, if Tennessee goes to a freshman quarterback this year, the wheels are falling off. I'm just gonna be honest. The wheels are falling off, man. Look, being a Texas fan over this past, I don't know, 30 years or so, but especially over this last decade, um, true freshman starting has been the sore spot for Texas. Having to have a Shane Buechele come in and start immediately. Having to have even a redshirt freshman and Hurd coming in and playing. Sam having to come in as a true freshman and play. I mean, those weren't some of the best years we had. It's because we did have to rely on true freshmen to come in and save the team. And I think if Tennessee does that, I think they're going to be in the world of hurt because you got a kid who has basically been in prom just 4 or 5 months earlier, and now he's starting in some pretty important games in the SEC. Now, look, he might be built for it. He might be built for it. He might be Caleb. Like Caleb Williams was built for it. Caleb came in, and even though he did his thing, Caleb still had some hiccups. Yeah. And if Caleb would have had those hiccups in the SEC, OU season might not have went the way it went. You know what I'm saying? So if Nico was starting as a true freshman, the wheels have fallen off the bus down at Tennessee, and they might have to hand out some more McDonald's bags, if you know what I'm talking about.
So this is actually a good segue to another team I want to discuss to that point. And this is another team that ended up having to go. Now, some of it was injury related, but the rest of it was also coaching and them not meeting expectations. Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They had to transition to Connor Weigman at the more towards the end of last season, and Connor showed a lot of promise. I really actually like what I saw from him. And I think I think he can be as good as he wants to be. I think it's more so, will he have the freedom and opportunity within Jimbo Fisher, and conceding some of that stuff over to Bobby Petrino to where they can modernize their offense. To me, that's a big question for Texas A&M on how I look at them as we go into the conference in 2024, quite frankly, because they could theoretically, like, depending on what type of season Connor Weigman has, he could be one of the better, more established quarterbacks by the time 2024 rolls around in conference, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think this season, 2023, I am looking at how Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino manage that relationship straight up and down, because they don't have an excuse with their quarterbacks. They really don't. Only though they can screw up the Connor Weigman thing, in my opinion. I just wanted to get y'all's take on that.
So if Nick, you want to go?
No. You good. Go ahead.
So first off, I want to address the comment. So what Brandon and I don't know how it's Qwerty, Texas fan. Anyways, hey, so what I was going to say was that about Fisher, to you guys' point, I don't know. Hey, look, he's due $86 million. His buyout would be $86 million if
he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
No time soon.
I don't think he's going anywhere for at least
3 years.
Probably stuck with him another 2-3 years. But to the point, though, Stephen, that was a great point. I agree with everything you said wholeheartedly. I think Weigman should have been starting from the get-go. Look, I get it. Max Johnson was a great insurance piece simply when you got him, because what you had there already before Weigman even got on campus, it wasn't great. I think now you have to go with him. He's a clear starter. He has weapons. You got all that talent, quote unquote, that you paid for, right? You got all that talent. Things got to come together this year. The only good year that you've had it as a head ball coach and as a program in this Jimbo Fisher era has been during the COVID year, and we all know a lot of people were benefiting heavily in the COVID year simply because of all the circumstances. And then even going into that next year, it was crazy to see them kind of sputter, knowing the fact that everybody has super seniors all over their team. Ask K-State how great they did with all those super seniors, and this year it's not do or die simply because Jimbo Fisher's contract dictates everything. I think that you could possibly see Petrino go. They would let him go before they would let Fisher go simply because of the contract. But I think this year, it to me, Stephen is 1,000% on the ball with this one, simply because it's all about the Petrino Fisher dynamic, because Weigman and all the plethora of athletes that they have at those skill positions. I mean, they're going to have a top running back. They're going to have Evan Stewart and company out there. I mean, they have all the tools to go out there and be a great offensive team. But one other thing that I would say, and I'll pass the mic to you, Nick, is we can't forget that offensive line. Their offensive line, to me, wasn't great last year. Statistically, they may have had some numbers or may have had some good games, but they weren't great collectively all last year.
Yeah,
their line regressed.
Yeah, it was up and down
season.
last year. They were all over the place last year. They were good some games, good in some spots, but then very spotty in certain games. But yeah, they definitely regressed from the previous year. But Chris, just to kind of piggyback on that, man, was look, A&M's going to come down to two things. Is Jimbo going to let Bobby do his thing, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is Bobby's system still good enough to run in the SEC or in any conference now? Which I think is a yes. I don't, the man never forgot how to coach. It's just a matter. Coaches always get better, right? You always see Andy Reid saying he's always looking to get better. He's getting new plays. Sean Payton says the same thing. He's looking at different plays. How does he steal plays from other teams and modify them into his system? Is Bobby Petrino doing that? Has he done this in the past couple years? Is he going to implement that same kind of process at A&M, or is he just taking the A&M job to get that bread, right? So we're going to find out real soon, one, whether or not Jimbo's going to let Bobby run the show, and if Bobby does run the show, has Bobby gotten just complacent, or is he still trying to upgrade himself to be the best coach he can be? Those are the two things that are going to make A&M a better team this year if both of those two things happen. Now, what I will say is Connor Weigman is a hell of a quarterback. I remember watching him in high school. I mean, he can ball, man. He's just a hell of a quarterback, man. He's a lot more mobile than people give him credit for, too, as well. So you can work around the offensive line based upon his talent. He has a quick trigger as well. 23, it should be, I'm not going to say it's going to be a good season for A&M, but what's going to happen, it should be a building block season to where they win 7-8 games. If Bobby is cooking, they can win 8 games, I think, pretty easy with that schedule.
Nick,
2024. Well, hold on though.
Go ahead.
2024 is the season where if Bobby Petrino is clicking in 2023, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in 24 because that talent that they got. Evan Stewart's probably his last year in college. Like Ruben Owens, his second year, him maturing in the program, becoming a no-kidding every down back. Connor Weigman's third year, maybe he's going into the league. This might be his last year. That all that talent they got from last year's class too. Like, this is the year where they should be able to put their foot on people's throats and go to business, right? But it all depends on the head coach. Right? Is he going to let Bobby Petrino do his thing? If the offense, can actually get humming, it could get dangerous down there.
They're theoretically set up. I mean, we didn't even touch on the defensive side of the ball and some of the killers they still have there, especially on the defensive line that they've recruited that are still in the program. They're set up to look really nice. I mean, I'm saying we're being objective here right now. They are set up to be really nice come 2024, to Nino's point, assuming the coach can honestly get out of his own way in 2023. Exactly. He really needs to get out of his own way. I've seen Bobby Petrino cook with freaking Ryan Mallett, and I saw the guy cook with Lamar Jackson. Okay. And they're two completely different types of quarterbacks. The point is, when he's proven that he can win with different types of QBs and can run an effective offense, but what is that relationship going to be with Jimbo Fisher? Jimbo Fisher's still a guy who's like, hey, I called plays for a national championship team, the Florida State Seminoles and Jameis Winston. And that ego is still there. We know how egos go with coaches. And so the moment something doesn't go well under Bobby, let's say he releases the reins early, is Jimbo going to be there to kind of hover over him? This is something we saw happen with Tom Herman at Texas a couple years ago during the COVID year when we brought in Mike Yurcich, and we couldn't really get on the same page, even though we had somebody who was very highly regarded as an offensive mind. You still have to have that chemistry. And so I think the talent is there at A&M. I don't question the talent. I question the coaches. in that scenario.
Now, look, Stephen, here's a comment here, for Stephen Houston. He said Bobby Petrino's offense was ranked 64th in the FCS last year.
I wanted to jump in on this right here because that's exactly where I was going to go. Look, Stephen, I get it. I believe I just looked it up because I had to look at the record with Ryan Mallett, 8-5.
Yeah.
I can't really say that he's ever really truly been successful without three guys being in that backfield. Lamar Jackson, obviously, McFadden, and then Felix Jones. I mean, because let's be real, when he was at Arkansas, he was running the Wildcat an awful lot.
He took Ryan Mallett and them to the Sugar Bowl because I remember they played Ohio State when Terrell Pryor and them got jammed up. I'm pretty sure that team was coached by Bobby Petrino. I might be tripping. I thought that's
look. All I know is that without those three guys, I haven't seen a lot. I think that he's a good coach. I think that he's a good offensive coordinator. Obviously, he's going to have a plethora of talent, maybe more talent than he's ever coached himself, simply because he had guys, like certain guys that just commanded so much attention on the offense and you just couldn't beat them. I mean, Lamar Jackson, let's be real, not only making plays, keeping plays alive, drives alive, hurdling people, doing all types of stuff. You can't teach that. You just kind of let them go. You just put them in position to make those plays. Felix Jones, Darren McFadden, obviously, enough said. I mean,
hey, Chris, I want to stop you there because, Stephen was right on this. Ryan Mallett in the next season, after the 8-5 season, they went 10-3. They had Ryan Mallett as the quarterback. This was when Darren McFadden left and Felix Jones left. Their leading rusher in the team was Nile Davis. He had 1,300 yards. The next leading rusher in the team was Broderick Green with 365 yards. And that was it. So it was the Ryan Mallett show. He threw for almost 3,900 yards, had 32 touchdowns from 12 picks. They went 10-3 that year.
No, I mean, I ain't got nothing against Ryan Mallett. He from TK. He from Texarkana, which is 45 minutes down the street from the house. So I mean, I ain't got no problem with. I'm just telling you, like, that's all great that one season, but that's outside of the dynamic players that he had. In my opinion, like we've seen really 1 year that he's excelled outside of those other three guys that I've mentioned, but without those guys, has he been able to trend with all that success? Louisville was I'm not gonna say it was a failure, but it was a struggle towards the end, especially after Lamar had left.
Yeah, I can say that too. I mean, let me look at his Louisville schedule first. Let me look at that because that's a good kind of conversation there, Chris. I never thought of it like that. It's almost a Jimbo situation where Jimbo was outstanding with Winston, and post Winston, he's been a 7-game win coach.
He's notoriously an 8-5 coach. Me and my uncle said that every time we talk about Jimbo Fisher. He's notoriously an 8-5 coach outside of that national championship year. What else has he done for you?
Yeah, because you got to look. He got EJ drafted in the first round, right? Mm-hmm. And I think those were still some kind of letdown years. And he had after EJ, it was Francois, wasn't it? Wasn't it Francois?
I think it was Francois. Coker had a shot at it too. Was it before Winston?
No, it was Francois. That was the game. So that was when it was Francois because that was when the offensive line turned on him.
Yeah,
and he got killed. In that Bama game, literally got killed.
Man, that he left Florida State in disarray. Man, it's great to see what Norvell is doing down there.
Yeah.
Simply because of what he was doing. Because I just think that it's another situation where their fan base is like ours, honestly. We expected all of this, coming into the season, all the rest of that, and then boom, they went through 2-3 bad years under Norvell, and then he finally flipped that switch and was like, hey, man, no, this is what I've been trying to show you guys. I'm not only am I a good coach, you got to give me time to build a program down here because Jimbo left that place in disarray. I mean, they were bad. I mean, they were bad.
Hey, man, I'm looking at Petrino, man. Even the year after Mallett left, they went 11-2, man. Their starting quarterback was Tyler Wilson.
Tyler Wilson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Their leading rusher in that team only had 670 yards. They had like a running back by committee there. 670 from Dennis Johnson, 458 from Wingo, and 260 from Broderick Green. So, he's doing this with guys that are not household names. He goes 11-2 in the SEC West. Does this damn thing, finishes 5th in the
What year was that?
That was 2011.
Exactly. Let's see what he does when the SEC is a little bit better than what it was back in those days, because usually it was just really top heavy. Now with the SEC, I'm still going to say it. I'm leaning towards more of saying it's top heavy, but you still have it's a little bit more spread out than what it was. Georgia wasn't what they are now. Tennessee was in the dumps. They were a dumpster fire. South Carolina was trying to figure it out.
Chris,
ball coach.
Chris, you also have to factor into at that point, and I agree. He was cooking back then. No, I'm not questioning what the stats that Nino's bringing up, but we have to factor in at that point in the SEC, they were behind in terms of defending more advanced passing concepts and some of the things. Not that Petrino was. I mean, Petrino was just running a little bit more advanced offense. It was more of along the lines of some of the stuff we were seeing in the Big 12 at the time, and we were ahead of that. Which is why A&M later came in and Missouri came in, and they both had a lot of success moving the football in the SEC, if you remember, right? I mean, when they came over, because they were used to playing offense in the Big 12, and it kind of forced the rest of the conference to advance forward offensively. So now that we're here in 2023 and eventually we're talking about this hard reset in 2024, does that still translate to today? I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I'm saying. I see what Brandon Navarro is saying. That's bull crap, dude. Every coach caters to their players. You don't start a team. I bet you if you're coaching your sons, you're not just going to go out there and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." No, you got to see what your talent level is. Let them scrimmage first. See who's the guy.
And then play up to your talent.
Yeah, and play to the talent. Everybody does that.
Yeah,
everybody does that.
But Chris, they
still go out there and get their ass beat. Like, what are we talking about?
Chris, but even you saying that, I'm looking at even just the years in Louisville with a guy like Lamar Jackson is probably one of the most electric players that we've ever seen in college football. And I'm just looking at the record here with him having Action Jackson as his quarterback, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like that's Lamar Jackson. There's no way in hell with Lamar Jackson, they weren't even in the Power 5, league at that time, were they? I think
no, they were in the ACC.
Were they ACC or was it AAC at the time?
I thought they were in the ACC then, because those are years they were going head up with like Clemson and Florida State.
ACC, bro. They were in
okay. What I'm getting at is prior to that, that's when Charlie had Teddy Bridgewater. They were in the AAC at that time. They didn't go to the ACC, I think, until after Charlie left, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Lamar years, they were ACC.
They were ACC.
Those are I don't want to crap on them about their record then either, because I remember them playing like they had that war with Deshaun Watson and Clemson where they were ranked 3 and Clemson was ranked 5th or whatever. And somebody was going to take an L, right? Like, and those games were like 42-45 down to the last. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna. That's tough to knock you on that.
But still, man, that's just like think about having Lamar Jackson. That's like having Mike Vick and losing 4 or 5 games every year he's there.
Mm-hmm. And 4 or 5
not acceptable
games.
Not acceptable. That's like having
how many NFL players did Louisville have?
Not that many
on the whole roster.
Yeah, I get it. I mean,
at least Teddy had. I think Teddy had like Devontae Parker at least. But
he had Parker, and he had the linebacker too. That
I feel like Lamar's one of his best weapons was the tight end. That Hawaiian guy. They were cooking together. What was his name? Like Lalani or something? Yeah. He was cooking with that guy.
He was cooking with it, man. Dude, man. Lamar was special, man. That dude was special.
I get everybody's point about Petrino. I'm not here to say that he's not a great coach. Like I said, he's going to have a hell of a lot more talent than what he had even in those days. Having Lamar Jackson, that is what you would call a transcendent quarterback. Having
Sure.
Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, guys who were not only good in college but good in the league whenever they were healthy. Whenever they were that you could consider them a durable back during that season, whatever stretch of the season it was, they were good backs. Darren McFadden he'd have a bad stretch of games, and then all of a sudden he's God's greatest gift to earth. Like, God, this dude is just good.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I said, collectively, Texas A&M is going to afford him the opportunity to coach the best collective amount of talent that he's probably coached in a long time. And I think with Evan Stewart,
I agree with that, especially considering the offensive line. I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I think that, my only thing about Texas A&M, if A-Chain was still there, because A-Chain to me, honestly, was an unsung hero for them. He was one of the better players, not only in the SEC, but all of college football. But he just kind of, to me, went under the radar simply because Texas A&M, the storyline about the NIL deals and all the rest of that stuff, Jimbo Fisher, every game he was consistent.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this, Chris. A-Chain is the guy that is going to pop really loud in the NFL, and people are going to. I mean, we knew, and I know BA's here in the chat, and he's an A&M fan, but A-Chain is going to be the guy that pops in the league, and people are going to be like, "Why wasn't he doing more like that in college?" Like, it's just you already know those. Even though he was nice in college.
No, he was a beast in college.
He was, but you know what it is. You know what it's going to be in terms of the hype, because he's on the Dolphins now. That's the perfect fit for his skill set. Yeah, being on that Dolphins team. That's going to be stupid.
Hey. One more comment about Bobby Traynor. This is a good comment by Blake. Blake says, also don't forget, he had Lamar for 2 years, and Lamar played worse that second year than he did in his first year, kind of like Winston and Fisher. That's, but Blake, this is what I will say about that too. After his first year, there's tape out on Lamar. And when there's tape and there's nobody else on your team, people are going to load up to stop you because they know what you're going to bring, right? And so when you're and you're the only guy on that squad, there's only so much you can do, because he couldn't recruit. He, being Bobby, couldn't recruit at the level that he would want to, even if he got some really good recruits coming in after the spike from Jackson have a hell of a year, right? Those guys wouldn't have been able to really have any effect on that team until probably 2 years down the line. And so, I mean, it's like that with a lot of players. The first year, Lamar was outstanding. The second year, he did have a step back because he was it. All the tape was on him, and they just had to gear up to stop him. So I think that's a lot to do with that as well.
No, I want to talk about. Go ahead, Chris.
So I was going to stay on Texas A&M for a few more minutes, because I just wanted to ask both of you guys
what's going on
and give you guys the floor to kind of explain. Are you excited? Are you a little bit pissed off about having to go there first? Like, how are you guys feeling? Obviously, you see the schedule and you're like, "Oh my God, we're in the SEC," but you see Texas A&M.
Can't wait.
No, totally fine with it. You know what?
Can't wait.
They deserve it because they were there first. Yes. Look, we came in after them. Totally fine. We're not going to come out here, put our chest out and say, now come play us at our home. Look, you were there first. We'll give you the common courtesy. We'll go to your field and kick your ass in your own field. And then we'll come and kick your ass the next year down in Austin. So it is what it is. It's a game. You're going to have to play there one day. We've played at that field before plenty of times. They've taken a bunch of L's on that field against us before, so it is what it is. Yeah, I'm coming for all the smoke.
Wow.
Yeah, for A&M fans, it was a really big deal for them that they got to play this game at Kyle Field first. For us as Texas fans, we'll play you on Mars. We don't really care.
Yeah.
But I know for them, to make them feel comfortable, that concession needed to be made. Not a problem at all. I'm just excited that the game can be had. Again, I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of the Twitter back and forth, because I mean, our both of our schools have underperformed so many different years and so many random years. it's time. I mean, for recruiting purposes, I want to see us play. For just like Nino and I kind of kicked this thing off, man. Like growing up, that was a staple. The one thing I ask is that we play this game after Thanksgiving, like it's
Yeah.
been kind of the tradition during that
Yep.
rivalry week period. That's the only ask I have when the schedules actually get made and we have dates. But other than that, I don't care where we play. I just want to get it popping.
Exactly. Hey guys, I say we transition to I kind of want to talk about Georgia. And I don't know why. And Steven brought some up earlier about just I won't say their schedules the last couple years were just cupcake schedules, but they weren't the hardest to schedule. They didn't really have to go through a gauntlet like Alabama had to go through. They only had to play the SEC East teams. I like to run and joke is SEC least, right? However, I'm looking at Georgia's schedule for 2024, and I'm like, go ahead. First, they got Auburn, right? So Auburn's at home, right? I think Hugh Freeze is going to have things kicking up pretty well in 2024. I think Auburn's going to be an 8 to 9 win team in that year. I just think Hugh Freeze is just that good of a mind when it comes to offense. Florida is the same thing that we've always talked about, but Florida Georgia is the rivalry, right? They got the border war there. Mississippi State is one of those ones, man. If Kevin Barbie can handle his thing with the offense, the head coach is the previous DC. So if Kevin Barbie can handle that offense and get the players that he needs in that program over the next year or so, I think Mississippi State's offense is going to be a very balanced and a very good team, a very disciplined and sound team. Tennessee is going to be a hell of a game for Georgia as well. Alabama, I mean, to get Alabama versus Georgia in the regular season, not in an SEC championship game. I think Kentucky's always sneaky. Ole Miss is going to be a very good game too at Ole Miss, and then to come play at Texas as well. I think Georgia's schedule to incorporate a lot of those SEC West teams is going to be a lot more difficult than what it has been in the previous years. What do you guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Chris.
So this is what I'll say about Georgia's schedule. I'll say this about everybody's schedule as well. It's interesting because we still don't know the exact order of these games and when they're going to be played.
That's true. That's true.
Are you going to get Texas early? Are you going to get, let's say that you guys are ushering in Malik, and let's say that it's taking Malik maybe just a little bit just to get his legs underneath him. You guys are winning, but it's taking him a little bit. Are you playing a full force Texas that is everybody, the freshmen or sophomores now, because you're now, midway through the season? Are you playing Texas then, or are you playing Texas, early in the season, first, second game or whatnot? So that's going to be an interesting thing whenever those schedules actually come out. You see the order. But as far as Georgia's schedule, I think Georgia and Bama hand in hand, you could look at both of their schedules and just say, like, man, it's going to be tough, but it's going to be pretty much the same. Having Bama on the schedule is huge. Like,
yes.
that is going to be key.
I love it. I love it.
I think Tennessee doesn't necessarily scare me with Georgia, because one thing Georgia's going to do, they're not going to be like Bama of old. They're not going to go out there and get matched up, with bad matchups and let people like Hyatt and all the rest of that go crazy. I know Hyatt's gone. I'm just using him as an example. But
what about Nico?
How
about Nico, though? This might be Nico's first year starting.
Nah, I'm still not really worried about Tennessee necessarily. I mean, yeah, and Kentucky, Ole Miss, those games really don't scare me. For me, I think it's more of a lighter schedule because we really don't know what the hell some of these teams are going to look like. Like I said, Auburn's probably going to be ushering in a freshman quarterback, a true freshman quarterback. Same could be said for Florida, to be quite frank with you, because I just don't see how Mertz or Jack Miller hold off Lagway from coming and taking that spot in 2024. I just don't see it, because if Steven's correct, that's going to be a do or die year for Napier's job. Because I think we're all on record, and we don't think that Florida is going to have that great of a season this year. So third year for for Billy Napier, it's going to be, do or die. Mississippi State may be one of the surprise teams, in my opinion, in 2024. I like what they're kind of doing in recruiting. I think they're going to be consistent. I think that obviously keeping their defensive coach is going to be a change of philosophy. We just got to see what they look like this year to get a sample of it. But other than that, like I said, I think you guys and Bama, honestly, are really the bigger games on there. Every game can't be slept on, but I think Bama and Texas, to me, on Georgia's schedule, at least right now, 2 years out, I think that those are probably the two teams that they have to truly prepare for and be ready to work.
Chris brings up two things I want to touch on. But first, make sure you guys hit that like button and please subscribe to the SEC Connect. We just got over 200 subscribers on the new channel, the new SEC Connect channel. Woohoo. So if you guys can help us push for 300 subscribers and just continue to grow the platform, we really, really appreciate it. Please subscribe. Please like. Just helps us grow, because as we get into the full-blown SEC gauntlet, we're trying to get that momentum built up now. So that'd be really helpful. Two things that Chris touched on that I want to kind of piggyback. Number one is order of schedule. That's a great underestimated point with all of these. Yeah. Just because we're looking at the slate doesn't mean that this is the order that teams will play, and also where certain people's non-con games will factor in. We obviously have to play Michigan early in the season. Texas A&M will be playing Notre Dame during this season. Teams like South Carolina have to play Clemson, typically towards the end of the year. So there's a lot of big non-conference games that are littered throughout several of these team schedules that have to be factored in. So as we factor in order, the next thing that Chris brought up that's really interesting point is if you have a first-year starting quarterback, if it's their first time starting, regardless, this is the hell of a year to be a first-time starter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want for a first-year starter.
For a first-year starter versus somebody that's why I think A&M. Teams like A&M and maybe even Tennessee, depending on what happens with their QB situation, Georgia with either a Beck or a Vandegrift, Ole Miss looking at, if Walker Howard takes over or whoever, some of these teams could be set up really nicely having a multi-year starter to navigate this first gauntlet versus the teams that are breaking in a starting quarterback and got to start their first SEC game with Bama or their first SEC game with Georgia. Mm-hmm. That's a very, very tough thing to grow into. College football is already hard enough. So I think navigating a schedule with the first-year quarterback versus the teams that will have multi-year starters who are potential NFL guys, that could be a big difference there. I mean, look at OU, right? I mean, is your boy going to be starting? Is Jackson going to be starting by then, his first year? Or are you breaking him into this?
Nah, we breaking him in. I mean, it's gonna be.
You gonna have General Booty?
Huh?
You gonna have start General Booty?
Nah,
they may have to play Jackson Arnold this year.
Arch. What y'all gonna do if y'all start Arch?
Hey, man,
hold on.
Y'all start Arch.
I'm asking you about OU. I'm asking you about OU. Chris, so stay on topic.
I'm confident. I'm just as confident as most fans will be, and whoever they're gonna have. I'm sure Auburn fans. I'm sure. Tennessee fans would tell me, hey, don't worry about us. We're going to be okay. I believe in Jackson Arnold. I think that Jackson Arnold is going to, hey, look, the kid's talented. Kid's definitely talented. And I
Obviously.
think he's definitely poised. And I think that he's going to have some bumps. He's going to have some lumps. Don't get me wrong. It's the SEC. One of the interesting things about OU going into the SEC is that we're going to be young in certain positions, but you won't be able to say we're not talented. You're going to have that talent that you need. It may take a second to get our feet under us in the SEC, but right now I still feel pretty damn good about what Venables is doing there to prepare for the SEC. But I think Jackson Arnold will be a-okay. I think he'll be okay, and I think that Lebby being coming from the SEC as well and kind of understanding that league, I think he's going to put him in positions to be successful. So, I mean, yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you highlighted that comment from James Thrice. Some of
Yep.
these quarterbacks are gonna have to play this year.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I do. I look. I would not be surprised if you saw Jackson Arnold, and in some spells. I wouldn't be surprised they had maybe a package or two for him. Um, I think that if Gabriel is being inconsistent again, like he was, and we're losing games like the Baylors or the West Virginias, where it's just constant. You're overthrowing guys like K State. You're overthrowing guys. You're not accurate. You seem what for whatever you know. I don't know what it is, but you don't seem poised or whatever. I think that Venables is not in a do or die situation, but Venables is in a position because he's putting himself in that. If you hear the tea leaves, you hear the notes, you hear behind the scenes. Venables is not putting. It's not that he's putting a lot of pressure on the staff. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself. He's saying, "Hey, last year wasn't the standard. Got to get 10 wins. We're pushing 10 wins this year for sure." And I think that he has that mentality because you hear about it in practices or whatnot. One guy's not getting it done, get him out of there. Let's get this situated. We've seen this movie before. I don't think that you're going to see that. And that's the same thing I was saying about Tennessee earlier. I just don't see how you come off a year like you did last year. You have this massively talented freshman on the other side, and you have a guy that's notoriously he hasn't gotten it done. Let's just be honest with you. He hasn't gotten it done. We've seen one game, and that was against Clemson, and I'll give him that. But we got to see the full body of work. And if he's not getting it done, then does Tennessee or even OU do they go through the season like Clemson did last year and not pull the plug until it's basically too late?
Chris, I think there's a difference. I understand what you're saying, but to say that Joe Milton wasn't getting it done, like that was a very early period in his football career at Michigan where he got replaced and he had to transfer. But since then, he was a backup at Tennessee, a spot, and then his only other opportunity to play was the Clemson game.
Yeah.
That's it. So versus Dylan Gabriel, like we have 4 years of full blown tape of what Dylan Gabriel is and what Dylan Gabriel isn't. I think that's a pretty big difference in terms between the two in terms of what we know about them, as givens, in my opinion.
I mean, I get, I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I'm not sitting here saying shut the door on him, but I'm saying this right here. When it came to the year that nobody was a starter, that he was the most experienced guy in there, he got beat out, and it wasn't just like it's not like Jim. Look, as crazy as Jim Harbaugh is, the guy's a great coach. No matter he's playing, he's coaching in the league or he's coaching in college. He's a great coach.
I agree.
But whatever anybody will say, I don't care if it's Paul Fiebum or whatever. Look at Nebraska. Nebraska's trying to get back to that. They wish they had Bo Pelini back there. I mean, now that they got Matt Rule's going to turn things around. But the problem is that I sure rather be 9-3, 10-2, or 9-3 each year than sitting there being 5-7, 3-8, 3-9, 4-8. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my whole thing is that with Michigan, he was shoo-in. Everybody thought it was going to be him. I thought it was going to be him. We already knew the kid had a talent. They talked about it all the time during the spring. He got beat out. And I'm not saying that's a mark on him, but I'm just saying that going to Tennessee, it's the same thing. He's been setting this entire time. You telling me he's just been supercharging his arm and now he's about to have just a record-setting year? I just don't see it.
Now, Chris, my only thing that, I want to push back on that a little bit is Jim Harbaugh has yet to develop a great quarterback at Michigan. For a guy to be a previous quarterback in the league, he has never truly developed a great quarterback to come out of Michigan. Now, if Joe Milton comes and kills it in Tennessee, that's going to say a lot about Jim Harbaugh, in my opinion.
It will.
And he needs JJ McCarthy to cook this year to dispel what Nino just said too.
Yeah.
So
if
he
comes out and kills it this year, if Milton does what people think he's going to do at Tennessee this year, Jim Harbaugh's going to look like egg on his face, man. He's going to look like he's coming out with egg on his face. But, neither here nor there. I was just checking the rest of the schedule. I was looking at Mississippi State. I'm looking at Ole Miss, man. And look, all these schedules are tough. I mean, there's nothing you can pick apart on these schedules, right? I mean, like Steven said earlier, every team in the conference in 2024 is going to have a hell of a conference schedule. And then you couple that in with, you know, the opponents that they have non-conference. It's going to be a hell of a season for every team. One thing I do want to kind of, talk about, so Chris talked about, just a transition for Texas and also OU going into the SEC in 2024. And I think both teams are doing things similar, but on opposite sides of the ball. I think OU's, their D-line recruiting has been pretty damn good under BV for the last cycle and this cycle as well. And I think they're setting themselves up to be really well in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. And I think on the other side, Texas has set themselves up perfectly for the offensive side of the ball, for the offensive line going into 2024. So I think that's going to be something really interesting to look at in those first couple games, those first, like 4 to 6 games here in the conference is how is that Texas offensive line that Sark recruited? They had the Kelvin Banks Jr., the DJ Campbells, the Neto, the Cole Hudsons, right? I mean, to see how those guys are going to stand up to the SEC competition coming into 2024 and the class that they had last year, bringing in guys that were more developmental pieces, right? Getting your Connor Strohs and your Goosebys and, Kirklands and those guys to actually come in to understand that they're going to compete for a job. However, the class that was just had prior to them, bringing in those 7 guys, the Ogbos and all those folks, you're going to have to kind of wait your turn there, the Cam Williams. So I think Texas has built the depth on the offensive line. It's just a matter of getting on the defensive line. I think OU has hit it perfectly for the defensive line. And I think that they might be a step behind Texas on the O-line. I think Texas is a step behind OU on the D-line. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. As long as Beaton Bowl is staying over there, I always think that we're on even par or even better than everybody else.
I'm talking about talent. I'm talking about bringing in talent. Like
as bringing in talent. Bringing in talent on the O line.
Yeah, I think.
Come on, man. Look at. Come on, bro.
I'm talking about over the last 2 years.
Record, man. Come on, dude.
I'm not saying
if they 3-star, 5-star or not. He's putting guys in the league and he's developing.
No, Chris, I totally understand that, but you understand. I understand. Steven understands. Playing Iowa State, Kansas, and Kansas State, it's not the same as playing Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. It's not LSU. It's not the same. The players just look different. It is what it is. You know it. You know it, Chris. So I'm talking about from the talent standpoint of getting these guys, Texas is a step ahead over the last couple of years in OU from the offensive line. And OU is a step ahead in the defensive line. I mean, I'm giving you guys some credit. I think it's a fair assessment. I think it's a fair assessment is getting talent.
I just think that's crazy, man, especially when you having Antoine Harris and guys like that. You're putting guys in the league. You're putting guys who are not only Creed Humphrey type of guys. I get it that you guys had this class last year, but I'm not going to sit here and say that like our offensive line is just oh my, that's crazy.
I didn't say it was trash, crazy, Chris. I didn't say it. I didn't say that.
I did not say that. I never heard you diss Beat about that. That's crazy to me.
No, I didn't diss him. No, you're not here. I'm talking about from bringing in talent on the line, Chris. Bringing in talent on the line. You have to. OU's not the best at everything. Texas isn't the best at everything.
I'm not saying
you guys have brought in better defensive line talent than Texas has over the past 2 to 3 to 4 years. It's not even a question. It just understand that Texas has brought in better offensive line talent over the last 3 years.
No,
I mean, that's all I'm saying.
You guys have brought in probably more stars, but like I said,
better offensive line talent that if Beaton Bowl would want Kelvin Banks Jr., DJ Campbell, Neto. He recruited all these guys. You trying to tell me Beaton Bowl wouldn't want the number 1 tackle in the country? You trying to tell me Beaton Bowl wouldn't want the number 1 guard in the country?
But Nick, here's the point. Here's the point, Nick.
I'm just saying, but look, Beaton Bowl.
No, you're not listening to me. I get your question. But what I've been saying all along is it's 2 different philosophies. You guys can go and make up all these collectives for these guys and go down there and get these guys or recruit them, that's great. That is fine. You can get all the stars you want. Texas has notoriously got nothing but star guys over the past decade, and you've seen that where that's
not true.
Underdeveloped.
That's not true.
It is a different philosophy.
That's not true. Hold on, I got to step in here.
But underdeveloped is different coaching.
Oh,
different coaching.
Chris, that is not true. First of all, no, they have not recruited like this. The numbers alone, Nino did a whole damn.
I did a whole video about the offensive line.
I'm not talking about the old line. I'm talking about just overall.
No, we're talking about the offensive line right now.
I'm talking about offensive line and defensive line is what that's the two
and
things.
And the other thing I want to measure in is if you're going to talk about Beatonbow, that's fine. Well, Kyle Flood factors in here too. Right. Kyle Flood's one of the best offensive line coaches, if not the best offensive line coach in the country right now. So, like, we have to factor in what he's also done at Alabama and the guys he's developed over the years, even going back to Rutgers and what he's now been doing just in the last couple of years at Texas as well. So let's not act like Kyle Flood has been here the last 10 years, putting this offensive line together. This is something that just started for us in 2021, honestly. 2022, I should say.
And Chris, that wasn't a jab at OU. I'm just talking about from the talent standpoint.
It wasn't a jab. I just disagree with you because
I would love to see.
Okay,
I would love to see, and let's just keep it real because we understand we're going to a whole different conference. This isn't the Big 12 anymore. Look, we're not going to have time to be able to put a 3-star out there and let him play and develop him while he's playing. There's not time for that.
That's not what BV does. BV is not just putting anybody out there.
I get what you're saying, but to jumpstart that machine, there has to be those one or two guys that have to start like that, like Connor Williams, like a Sam Cosmi.
And that's
that were 3-star guys.
You want to know something, Nick? I can't wait to see y'all this year in the Big 12 anyways, because the thing is, like I told you, you want to talk about transcendent quarterbacks, let's talk about transcendent running backs. When you don't have a guy that's in the backfield shedding 3 tackles and then taking it 60 yards like Bijan did last year, it's going to be interesting to see because you guys weren't great in the run. It was just because you had Bijan and then you could follow that up with Roschon. You guys lost a great back, a transcendent back in your words, and then you lost another solid, like really good piece to that running back.
The guy's a 3rd-round pick. I don't think he would just say he's solid. I think he would have started for. I mean, he was damn good running back.
Solid piece is what I'll call him. That's not even a jab. I'm just saying. Come on.
I don't want to hear you talk about. I don't want to hear you talk about drop off when we tried to explain drop off with you losing Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams and all those other folks, and you're over here talking about we're just going to retool. Now you want to tell me about drop off? Are you serious?
Let's see how this offensive line stacks up without Bijan being back there in the run.
It's gonna be it's gonna be a lot better.
Come and talk to me because I saw Jonathan Brooks and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I saw Jonathan Brooks running all up and down Oklahoma defense last year in the combo.
I saw him against Washington too, and I thought I was just like, "Ha!"
And he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns on 8 touches. Come on,
stop playing him. Oh my God,
Chris, he had 2 touchdowns on 8 touches.
Oh my God,
with a sports hernia. That's why he didn't play that much. He had Steven, he was injured. He had 8 touches and 2 touchdowns. I saw him against
going out without a fight.
Steven. Hey, Steven, I saw him against Washington. It didn't impress me. 8 touches, 2 touchdowns.
That boy's a bomb. I'll go ahead and be the first one to say I've been saving that for the longest. That boy's a bomb. Jonathan Brooks is a bomb.
Okay, we'll screenshot this. Again, another bookmark here.
Steven, he's a bomb, and JT Sanders is a non-factor. Just remember those 2 things.
And the year before, he said he wasn't worried about Xavier Worthy the year before he went off for 260 or something, whatever that was.
And he also said Bijan was all right a couple years ago. Remember that?
Yeah. So
I did not say that's a lie. Now that's a lie. I ain't never said that.
Now he wants to give Bijan credit after he's gone.
No, Steven, now you tell Nick, you tell everybody Nick is lying. I ain't never said Bijan.
I had to throw that jab in. That was a good jab. That was a good low jab. That was a low blow.
Now the chat about to go crazy because they're going to be like, he said what? Oh, nah.
I want to be fair. Okay. Objectively speaking, there will be drop off from losing a Bijan Robinson. He's one of the best players we've ever had in our school. There's going to be some drop off losing a guy that did as much as he did for our program as Roschon Johnson. I'm not. You're absolutely right, Chris, in the sense of if we don't block better, then we won't get away with all that stuff. However, with the development that we think we will see with our offensive line and the talent that we still do have in our backfield, led by Jonathan Brooks, who can be very, very explosive and do the things we need, we feel as though in combination with the more explosive passing game, that we're gonna have a different look and feel, but we're still gonna be effective in that regard. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, we're not gonna have the luxury of turning around in 12 personnel and just handing it off to Bijan and saying, make it happen. No, not right now.
But that's guys. What I'm, and you know what, Steven, no, hold on, Nick. Hold on. Go ahead. Steven made a good point because that's what I've been trying to say all along about OU. You're acting as if Beaton Bow has not. When I say the difference in philosophy, I'm saying that he'll take a 3-star, he'll take a guy because he evaluates those players himself. I'm not saying anything about Kyle Flood. Let's put him to the side. But what I am saying is that no. Listen. You're acting as if Beaton Bow hasn't recruited 4- and 5-star guys and don't have them as juniors finally starting on that offensive line. He develops those players. He gets them ready, and he already has those guys.
Who are these people?
My God, Savion Byrd. Do I have to keep going down? I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I forgot about Savion Byrd. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I forgot about that.
No. I knew about Savion Byrd.
Produced the most talent on the offensive line in the league. Stop playing out of the Big 12. Come on, man. Stop playing, bro.
I'm not playing on Savion Byrd, but we're gonna act like is he Kelvin Banks?
What?
Is he Kelvin Banks?
Bro, y'all okay. I can't wait till this season. I can't
exactly.
I can't wait till
exactly.
I cannot wait till this season. When that bum is out there running that rock for 2.5 yards per carry, y'all gonna be sitting here saying, well,
hey, Chris.
He ain't a bum, Chris. I'll be like, he's a bum. He's a bum.
Hey, Chris. I got something to counter that for both teams.
Go ahead.
Who's the greatest running back to come out of OU?
Adrian Peterson.
How many championships did you win with Adrian Peterson?
Didn't win any.
Okay. Who's on the Mount Rushmore? All the stats as running backs. The top running back for all the stats at Texas. Rest is rest is so. Cedric Benson. How many championships we won with Cedric Benson? 0. Yeah, when Cedric Benson left, we had Ramonce Taylor, Jamal Charles. Those guys
Selvin
came
Young.
in. Yeah, Selvin Young. Those guys came in, did their thing, ran behind a veteran offensive line that was more developed than the previous year. Guys that ended up going to the league because they were developed. And we won a championship without our workhorse, Cedric Benson. All right, because we became a team that didn't just rely on the run so much. We were able to get the ball out in space. Of course, we had Vince Young as well, too, but we had Vince Young in the previous year with Cedric Benson, and we didn't win a championship. You guys won a championship prior to, AD getting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, look, it's not about how talented and transcendent that running back is. Running backs, yes, it means a lot. When it comes to winning those championships, it's how transcendent of a quarterback, in my opinion, that you have, because that's the guy who has the ball in his hands 24/7. Every play he touches the ball. And so
you saying Quinn is Vince?
I didn't say Quinn was Vince. Hell no, I didn't say that. No, but I'm just getting at the running back situation. I think the Texas offensive line is going to be more mature this year.
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin Banks is going to be more mature. This guy, he was second team all conference this year, first team freshman All-American this year. Cole Hudson played really well as a freshman. I think DJ Campbell's going to be good this year. You got Jake Majors coming in as a junior this year, Steven. Christian Jones coming back as a senior. Yeah, that's right. Because of the COVID year, Christian Jones coming back in to man that right tackle position. The line's going to be more experienced. I'm not saying we're going to get the same production.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that
we have a better team.
We're going to have a better.
It's a team.
I get that.
It's a better team. It's a more experienced team. Chris, we had 2 guys win Doak Walker the Doak Walker Award within the last like 6 or 7 years. And when you look at the production or whatever versus the year we won the Sugar Bowl in 2018, that was what Trey Watson and
Yeah, Trey
Keontae
Watson.
Ingram
Yeah.
was our backfield, right? Like, so I mean, it's more about the team and how the whole construct is versus, you know, an isolated
Just one
talent individual player.
Just one running back,
Yeah.
not just like one player. I can say like one quarterback. Like when Caleb came in for you guys that year, I was just like, Jesus Christ, this kid is outstanding. Like next year, he is going to be it. And he was.
We're adding an AD Mitchell to our offense.
Yeah.
We're adding, I mean, Jatavian Sanders in year 2, Quinn Ewers in another year taking a step forward. I mean,
the whole offensive line is going to be better.
Nick,
the defense. Yeah,
Nick,
go ahead.
Steven, look, at the end of the day, okay, we're not going to get anywhere with this because it's Texas. I understand the expectation because I hear it year after year after year after year. I understand the expectation. Yeah, I'm in a show me state for Texas. I know we got to show y'all whatever y'all want to take y'all jabs. Go ahead.
I'm in a show me state with Texas too, brother.
I'm in a show me state with Texas. Y'all got to go out there and actually go win something. Win a Big 12 championship at least. And then you know what? Y'all win a Big 12 championship this year. I'll leave Texas alone for 6 games going into the.
No,
SEC.
you won't. You never leave us alone.
No, you heard it all here.
No, it's not
happening.
You
heard it all here. Write it down,
Steven. When it happens, he's still not going to do it. Chris can't help himself.
If y'all win a Big 12 championship, I will leave Texas alone for 6 games going into the SEC. I'll let y'all see 6 games.
One thing I will say about you guys,
I don't believe you.
You guys are set up really well for the first 5 games. I think you should come out the first 5 games 5-0.
Yeah, you talking about this year?
Yeah, especially going into
not
having the Power 5, out of conference game either. I think that helps out a lot. And I think your 2 first conference games.
Georgia Bell, what you mean, Steven? Stop playing. Come on, bro. What you talking about? What you mean?
Hey,
bro,
Steven,
they got this JV schedule for 2023, bro. Like, this is crazy.
They got 3 built-in wins right there, right? I mean, just 3 built-in wins from the start. 3-0. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But let's get back to 2024 right quick. Just saying, man, I was looking at the calendars and just looking at the schedules, man. It just looks like, I always want to say, hey, look, this team has a harder schedule. And OU on paper has the hardest schedule when it comes to the SEC for 2024. But look here, guys. I mean, honestly, everybody is playing basically everybody. And so it's not a cakewalk for anybody at all. At all. So it's going to be a hell of a year, man. Just looking at one more team, that's LSU. I know Chris isn't a big BK fan, but I mean, LSU schedule, if we just look at this prior to us leaving, man, Alabama at home, Ole Miss at home, Oklahoma at home, then they got Vanderbilt. Then going to Fayette, going to Arkansas. Florida's in the make it or break it year, right? I think Napier's going to be out for blood that year because I think that's his hot seat year. South Carolina, I mean, I like what they're doing out there. I like what Beamer's doing out there. And then having Texas A&M also at Texas A&M. Man, LSU got a tough one too, man. Everybody has a tough schedule.
Here's the thing about LSU. Now, I'll be honest with you. I do actually like Brian Kelly. I'm on record. You can ask Ty. I told him, I said, hey, it's a great hire for LSU because LSU is one of those programs that's always one coach away.
Yeah.
Was Coach O a great coach? I wouldn't go to that extent because he had great coaches around him. He had a great staff. Every year that he was there at LSU, it's just a lot of the extracurricular stuff finally caught up to him. And then, I mean, when you lose the talent that you do off of that 2019 national championship team, it's kind of expected. You had 16 guys that were heavy contributors. I mean, they're all doing things in the league, I believe. But looking at LSU, Brian Kelly is a good coach, really good coach. You just asked, is Nussmeier that guy, which I believe that most of the panel that is usually on this show, we all believe that Nussmeier is a dude. We think that he's going to be able to step in there after Daniels leaves and pick up right where he left off.
He's a guy.
LSU is always going to have the talent. Are they going to have that premier talent, like that wide receiver and then that defense? I mean, it's going to be SEC and those Louisiana kids,
Yeah,
And
he's got them.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that they're going to be well coached. Can you beat them? Yes. Do you have to play a perfect game? No. But do you have to play all 60 minutes? Most likely you got to play at least a good 55 minutes of that game to win it, simply because they're going to have that talent. So for LSU, I don't necessarily think that their schedule is going to be, I mean, some of their harder games are going to be at home, to be honest with you. You got Alabama, you got Oklahoma, and then you're going on the road against Florida, and we don't know exactly what they're going to look like. South Carolina most likely is going to lose Spencer Rattler, and unless they get another quarterback in the portal, well, you guys are saying that freshman, and that's great. But
I just don't trust true freshmen. I just don't
Well,
trust.
Well, he's a freshman.
I don't know.
Well, hold on. He's a true freshman right now.
Oh,
He's
okay. So
already
he'll be a
there.
sophomore next
Yeah, he'll
year.
be a
So he'll be a sophomore. redshirt
Sellers
freshman.
is already there. Yeah, he's
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So he have a year in the system then, and then you got A&M at A&M though. And I think I'm telling you, man, I think A&M in 24. I know Texas fans gonna hate me for saying this, but A&M in 24 is gonna be a problem if Petrino can cook. I'm just gonna be honest. They got all their talent is primed and prepped and ready for the 24 season.
There's certain coaches for me that reach a point where they get the automatic benefit of the doubt, and I think Brian Kelly is at the top of the list of guys that don't even have a national championship on their resume. But I put him up there, honestly, in terms of benefit of the doubt. I'm not worried about them. I know
Me
he's
neither.
going to figure out a way to win at least 10 games. If he has a really good quarterback, they're probably in the mix for the playoffs. Like
He's a great coach, man.
He is, and they're recruiting their asses off right now. And it's
he's
really
getting the talent.
It's crazy too that they lost Jamar Cain to the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still fighting us tooth and nail for Colin Simmons. They're still in the mix for all these other. They're probably going to land a Dom McKinley, who's a top 25, interior defensive tackle out of Lafayette. Like LSU, this also could be the season of them coming off of winning the SEC. Quite frankly,
mm-hmm.
Like let's just be real. Like that's the type of talent they're coming into it in 2023. I'm giving Brian Kelly the benefit of the doubt and all. Him, Kirby, Saban, obviously in this slate of coaches. If we're just looking at the coaches in this conference, that's the top 3 for me out of this group.
Yep, exactly. Look, man, I'm telling you, man, this is the first time that Brian Kelly, I think, has had the opportunity to go out and snag as much talent as he wants whenever he wants. It's something he couldn't do at Notre Dame. I'm sorry, it's a different landscape at Notre Dame.
And he still had Notre Dame in the playoffs, bro.
Yeah, man, I know. So that's the thing is he has all this talent at his disposal. And folks, if you don't know, I am from Louisiana. I'm from Shreveport. And there's a certain loyalty to LSU in that state. 9 times out of 10, the top targets in that state are going to LSU. It's not even a question. They grew up loving it. It's a small state. Everybody has purple and gold on. My grandmother went to Grambling. Now she wore her Grambling stuff, but right next to her Grambling stuff was LSU. And she didn't touch one foot on campus at LSU. But next to her Grambling gear was LSU. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's a very loyal state to that school. It's a very loyal state to the pro team as well. They feel an obligation to keep Louisiana talent in Louisiana. And when they get it down there, man, they, no kidding, develop the hell out of that talent. And it's just something in the water in Louisiana, folks. It just is, man. It just is, man. He's going to be fine. Let's see what else we got, man. Well, look, guys, it's been an hour and 30 minutes, man. I think we kind of hit the nail on the head with all these teams, or the majority of them. Like I said, every team in the SEC for 2024 is going to have a tough schedule. So it just is what it is. Whether it's, I think OU is ranked as the hardest schedule here in the conference. But when you go back and stack everybody else's schedule, they're pretty much damn near the same, man. It's just it's going to be a tough sled for any team. But Hey, folks.
I know. Chris says he likes the Vanderbilt coach. I think it's
Yeah.
Chris, or maybe it's Chris or Ty that like what the Vanderbilt coach is doing. Add up the wins of Bama, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas just in 2022. Right, that's their home slate. Like, you see what I'm? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
ridiculous.
That's
Like,
crazy, man.
like we're talking about like 8 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins. Like those are your 4 home conference opponents. Good luck. It's ridiculous. That's Vanderbilt's home schedule. That's crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt, Nino. I just noticed that. I'm like,
No.
Jesus.
You know what though, man? One more thing about LSU. I want to go back to LSU right quick. I'm on I'm looking at their 2024 football commitment list. They got 18 commitments, right? And out of those 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of those 18 are from the state of Louisiana. And 1, 2, 3, 4 are from. No, I'm sorry, 3 are from the surrounding areas close to the Houston area. So they're going to recruit Louisiana hard, and also like that Houston area, the Beaumonts, Orange, Texas. Look, they're going to recruit like hell, man. So BK is going to be up to something, man. And I think he's going to have a hell of a time there at LSU, and I expect him to win a championship pretty much in the next 5 years. But that's just me. But
I
folks,
agree with you 100%.
Yep. Like, comment, subscribe to the SEC Connect. Like Steven said, man, we just got 200 subscribers here. We're on episode 16. We're going to bring this to you weekly. I can't wait for the season to start because we're going to really have some good conversations, like once the season starts, man. But on that note, folks, man, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next week, hook 'em.
Boom.